Good morning, everyone out there. Welcome to the Bottom Line Show.
Good morning.
We are
Good morning.
Lamar and Darren. We are here on this lazy
Yes,
Saturday Thanksgiving weekend show.
man. Look at this. Mark Shock is up
Link
early with
back.
us. Hey, Mark, you the first one to log on. Good morning, my brother. Good morning. It's awesome. Whew.
So, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was pretty decent. Usually the holidays down here is just because me and my wife are here by ourselves. That we usually go find a restaurant. So today we went and splurged a little bit on
Did you?
some.
Where'd you go?
We went. If I say the name, right, I always jack up this name. Fago de Chao, Fogo or Fago de Chao, the Brazilian steakhouse.
A
Man,
Brazilian place. Nice.
Brazilian steakhouse. Yes,
Wow.
man. It
Okay.
was really good. So you ever been to a Brazilian steakhouse?
No, I've never been to
Really?
a
So
Brazilian
yeah, like they
steakhouse.
have this buff. They have like a table that has all the food, all the side dishes, and then after you have your side dish, they give you a card. It's like green and red. So green, you put the green side up. The waiters will come by. The waitresses and waiters will come by one at a time at different times of your meal with a different style of meat, a Brazilian style of meat,
Huh.
and they'll slice it off for you at your plate, and you can eat as much as you want. So whenever you turn your card to red, then they stop asking if you want more. So there were six different styles of Brazilian meat that we were
That
served.
is. So they were okay. So sorry to. I gotta ask. So like, there's. Is there a menu then?
There's a menu, but there's a menu you can buy, but most people just get the buffet. That's the whole experience. You go do this buffet where you have all these different styles of foods. I mean, all these different Brazilian foods, side dishes, salads, and different types of pastas or uh, dessert. I mean, what do you
Okay.
call it? Vegetables and starches in your vegetables, and then you go sit down with that stuff on your plate, and then they come by and they offer you styles of meat, from Brazilian chicken legs, Brazilian Brazilian grilled like steaks and Brazilian pork wrapped in bacon or chicken wrapped in bacon.
Oh my
Lamb,
gosh.
yeah, like
Okay.
you had like lamb
Yeah,
steaks.
lamb.
You had pork roast. You had all kind of meat. They just come by and they slice it for you right there and put it on your plate. So as you're trying to finish up a piece of meat, they throw another piece of meat on your plate. And it's like
Wow.
it was a great experience, and that's probably the most meat I've eaten in about 2 years, 3 years, actually probably 5 years. And then, um, my wife who doesn't eat really much meat at all, she hasn't eaten meat in like 8 years, but this year
Wow.
she's been dabbling in some chicken, ate some chicken here and there. So this time she ate chicken. She took a taste of my steak and a taste of some pork, but she ate like a chicken leg she had. That was pretty good.
So that's an
Yes.
interesting restaurant experience. So does anyone else
Yeah.
out there go if you're out there, if you go out to eat on Thanksgiving, let us know. I also want to know like what's the most interesting restaurants you guys have been to? What's the most interesting restaurant you've been to if not this one?
Interesting. We went to one that was what's it, Wolfgang Puck, one of his restaurants.
Yeah.
It's down here. If you're familiar with Dallas, they have the the Reunion Tower, which is this big ball on a tower that sits in the sky.
Yeah.
And you
Mhm.
go up that tower, there's a restaurant that turns up top. And it's a Japanese restaurant up there, a Wolfgang Puck restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And that was a great experience. Um, but I'm trying to think when I was in Cabo, every day was a different themed Mexican buffet for dinner. You
Okay.
had like a seafood buffet, but everything was done in a Western Caribbean style.
Mhm.
You had seafood night. You had a pasta night. You had all kind of every night was a different theme, but the food was prepared in a Western Caribbean style, which is what
Nice.
the
That sounds
Baja
really cool.
California, the Baja Sur area of Mexico is like Western Caribbean.
Mhm.
So that was pretty different. But yeah, but we go to Benihana's every Christmas or some type of hibachi on Christmas. And the thing about it though, like in Dallas, a lot of people that go out to dinner on to these restaurants are from another state. They're transplants here. So a lot
Okay.
of them don't have a lot of family
They
for
don't have a
these
lot
big
of family,
meals.
so they say why
Yeah.
not? Okay.
Yeah. So they go
Interesting.
out. So
Well, it makes sense.
there's usually a
It's
waiting list for a
interesting.
lot of these. There's a waiting list for a lot of these restaurants and stuff. So we got in
We
pretty
went to
good.
when we were living in the Bay Area we went to Miramoto's restaurant. I don't know if you know who he is. He was one of the original Iron Chefs, if you remember that show
Oh
on Food
wow,
Network.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there was a kind of restaurant where they don't list the prices.
yeah. Right, yeah.
So
You don't know what you're
that was
getting.
the only restaurant that I've ever been to that didn't have a price.
Oh wow.
So, we splurged. So that was
Right, right.
our oldest used to really be into cooking, and so we got a tour of the kitchen and everything. We got
Yeah.
a signed cookbook, but we spent probably $150 at that for the four of us at least.
Oh
But
wow.
oh my
Okay.
God, the food was
Awesome,
good. Wow.
huh? That's
Um,
so cool.
yeah.
That's
Well,
cool.
today is the day of the fourth Saturday in November that
Yeah.
happens every year. Comes around the game, Ohio State,
Game.
Michigan, the throwdown in Columbus.
Yes.
Undefeated
Yep.
teams. Prediction. Do you got a prediction?
Yeah, it looked like you
Did you do
spelled
a prediction
Michigan.
on Tuesday?
It looked like you spelled Michigan wrong. Is that an L or is that an I?
Oh, I mistyped here.
No, it's cool.
I think I
No,
had
you're
the
good. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Misspelling Michigan is fine. 'Cause we don't say that word anyway. So they're like Michigan. You could have kept it, man.
okay.
I was getting a great laugh off of that because why show them any respect today? And I'm wearing a blue shirt. That was by accident. That was by accident.
Hey, is that
But
better?
yeah. Yep, there you go, man. There you go. You could have put the team in lowercase too, but it's okay. I don't it's gonna be an exciting game, man, because it's gonna be like last year. Both were undefeated last year going into this
Were they
game.
undefeated last year?
I think so. Yep, both of us undefeated. Defeated. Michigan won and went to the playoffs and lost. So they didn't deserve to be there anyway.
They didn't. I'm gonna look that up. So in 2021, um, 47 to 27, 42 to 27.
Yeah,
Um,
we beaten them. What is it? 22 out of the last 27 times, or 23 out of the last 27 games we played them.
yeah, that's about
We
right.
beat them. So about 20 years we've been whipping that tail.
So at any rate, this could be one of the more epic clashes in the history of the series because they're both undefeated. What's at stake? 11-0. They're talking. Did you hear they're talking about doing away with divisions in the Big
Yeah,
Ten and all the major conferences, which would mean that if Ohio State and Michigan are the two best teams at the end of the Big Ten season, which is probable
yeah,
more often than not, 30-40% of the time, probably they're going to play each other. They would play each other again if they're going to keep the Big Ten championship game. And
right.
they're also talking about expanding the playoffs to 12 teams.
Yeah,
So that would also make this game maybe a little bit less impactful because basically they're playing to play into the playoffs.
right,
More than likely, the winner of this game will be in the playoffs. More than likely, the winner of this game was going to beat whoever they come out of the Big Ten West.
right.
And so you figure that if there's 12 teams in the playoff, if you lose this game, you're still in the playoff. Probably,
Yeah,
if you go into the game in the top 4 and the top 5 like they are right now,
yeah,
you would still be in the playoff.
yeah.
So is it as big of a game then? Maybe
Well,
not.
this
Maybe
year
not.
there's a lot of teams. Like think about a team like TCU, for instance, who's undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
They would not even if it was if it was 12 teams. Some of these other teams would make it up in there that are like one game losses or beating more rivals or something like that. I think that would make a difference. You got USC who's right there. They're there again. With opportunity. I'm not sure what their record is. Did they win last night? again? Then they play
USC?
UCLA. Then they play
Let me look that
UCLA.
up. Hold on.
I didn't watch any sport. I did watch the Cavs last night, but I didn't watch any
Last
sport.
year, the Buckeyes came in with one loss. The Buckeyes came in with one loss because they lost against Oregon at the beginning of the year.
Sure did. You're right.
So they came into the Michigan game with one loss.
You're right.
Michigan also came into the game with one loss, I believe.
Okay.
Last year they
thought
lost
they both are
against
undefeated.
Michigan. They lost against Michigan State, but they did make the playoff. I believe as the third or fourth seed team last year, Michigan, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So they lost against Georgia. They were they were number 2 seed. They lost to Georgia.
Okay.
So there you are.
There you go. Yeah. Georgia's right there at number 1 again this year.
USC. So last night, was that last night you said? They played UCLA, right?
I thought they did last night. Yeah.
Okay. That was wow. I'm sorry I missed this game. This
It was
is
late
last
last night.
week. This is last week on the 19th. 48-45.
Who did they play?
The Trojans won.
Who did they play
They
yesterday?
played UCLA.
Who did they play yesterday?
I'm not sure they played yesterday. Let me look.
I thought they played Cal yesterday. I'm sorry. It was UCLA. It was UCLA, not USC, but it was UCLA and Cal yesterday.
Okay.
My fault. My mistake.
No, they play Notre Dame. USC plays Notre Dame today, I think. Yeah,
And
today.
Tulane beat Cincinnati. And then you had Texas beat Baylor yesterday. That was 38-27. Then you had the Florida game yesterday. It was a pretty close game, 45-38 Florida.
Okay.
They ranked 15. So you had a couple of ranked games yesterday. North Carolina State versus
rivalry
USC.
Week. All the teams play their rivals. Many of the teams play their rivals. This being the biggest one. Historically the biggest one and the most impactful one this year. Prediction. What's your prediction?
Oh, I give it Ohio State up. Ohio State win by 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns. Wow.
Yeah, because they have a rookie. Michigan has a rookie quarterback, and Corum, their starting running back, he was injured last week. So
Okay.
I mean, he walked off on his own. I'm not sure how bad off he is, but he plays. He will play. We've had some injuries also. Travion Henderson, the running back for the Ohio State Buckeyes, he had been injured for a little while, but we brought in about 3 deep, running backs 3 deep, and still did pretty good in the running game. But we've been kind of slow these last few weeks, starting off slow in the first half against Maryland and against Indiana, and we can. I think we got to do better in the first half.
Well, yeah, we've been starting out slow. It's been interesting. This should be interesting because both teams were pretty much rolling through the season, and this last week they had a scare. Both of them had a scare. Against Maryland, of course. Ohio State went to Maryland, and then Illinois took to the last play, I think, against Michigan. So Michigan has some problems at running back right now. Apparently, they're missing their running backs. I think that's going to be the difference in the game. They are a run-heavy team. Ohio State has its issues as well. So I'm going to go with a 10-point victory for Ohio State.
Okay.
I'm going to go with 38-28.
And TCU is number 4, by the way, in the playoff.
TCU is number 4 because they are also undefeated.
Yep, undefeated.
So there you have it. There's a prediction. Sure to go wrong.
Now, how is LSU number 5 with a? How is they number 5
they're in the
with
SEC?
Yeah, but they lost 2. But they've lost 2 games.
It doesn't matter. They're in the SEC. People love the SEC.
Screw the SEC. They lost 2 games. I mean, they lost 2 games. How are they even number 5? That doesn't even make sense. But then you have a team like who was it? Clemson is number 7 at 10-1. That's crazy. I don't know how they picking this stuff. How they be getting these teams? Like that's ridiculous. You got a 10-1 Clemson, but yet a 9-2.
I think the more interesting prediction, and then if we are predicting Ohio State to win, then what is the playoff going to look like?
If they win, think about this. In my opinion, if Georgia loses to, if Georgia, if Ohio State beat Michigan, they're going to stay number 2 if Georgia wins. If Georgia loses, which I doubt it, because who is Georgia playing? They're playing.
I'm going to assume that Georgia's going to win out
They
through the
play
rest of the
Georgia.
season.
They play Georgia State, don't they? Yeah, they play Georgia State. If they were to lose that game, they're
I
going
think
to
it's Georgia
drop
Tech.
Georgia Tech. I'm sorry, that's what I meant. They're going to fall out of the top 10, in my opinion. I think they'll drop out of the top 10.
Georgia's going to
And
win. We're just going to.
yeah,
I'm just going to
yeah.
fill that in. We both predicted Ohio State to win, so they'll be 1 and 2. Michigan will drop out of the top 4. So then you
You
have
think we'll jump them?
TCU.
You think so? You'll beat Michigan. You think we'll jump? We'll skip? We'll leapfrog over to number 1?
It's possible. It depends on how we win. It depends on how we win.
Yeah.
There'll be another game next week, so we'll get to a chance to rank up some points. TCU plays Iowa State, who's 4 and 7. They will probably win. LSU is sitting at 5. They'll have to play Georgia in the SEC championship game, so that should be a good game. They will only be in the playoff if they win that game. If not, they got no chance. So I see USC as a likely team, to provided that they beat a ranked Notre Dame team. They will also, I think, have to play a Pac-10 championship game against the Oregon Ducks.
They're ranked 25 though, man.
They could get some points.
USC is ranked 25.
Notre Dame is ranked 15. USC is ranked 6th.
I
don't know what you're looking at. USC is ranked 6th.
I'm looking at Bleacher Report. They're showing USC 25. That's weird.
College football rankings 2002.
I just did a refresh.
You might be looking at the wrong year there, man.
No, I'm looking at
number 6.
I'm looking at Bleacher Report.
The college football playoff rankings.
This shows all the games for today, or for this weekend, and they have it's wrong then. But I'm looking at Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report is where you get a lot of my sports news from. But man, it shows them right now. Notre Dame 14, USC 25th. This is what poll is this for? Doesn't show it just show Bleacher Report. This might be their own rankings then. I don't know. It's not the college football rankings then.
It's not the college football playoff rankings. I don't know how in the world you could have USC at 25.
That's what it says, man. That's what it says, man. I'm just looking. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
They're wrong. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, they played Notre Dame. Notre Dame 14 to USC 25. And they're 10-1.
That might be a misprint. Anyway.
Must be, man. Yeah. Today at 6:30 p.m.
Anyway, so I'll be at my dad's house watching the game and probably stressing about it. So
yeah.
We had some interesting conversation before we logged on this morning, or before we hit the live broadcast this morning. There was this week a lot of mass shootings, and unfortunately, we saw the Club Q mass shooting. We had seen the Walmart shooting in Virginia, and it just keeps happening. And especially in the week of the holidays, it's just particularly troubling. I think the question is that this was posed on the Prim Facebook page. Should we just accept this as a part of living in America? Is this just a part of our culture? Is this just a part of our lifestyle? Is this just something we're going to have to live with? Mass shootings, shootings that are, particularly troubled, not just like, somebody has a beef with a certain group of people, total strangers, and walks into a place, a mall, movie theater, church, a nightclub, for LGBTQ people, whatever.
Yeah.
And take out their frustrations.
It's not good. And we won't do anything about it. And like I said, as people know by now, I am a gun owner, and I'm pro, Second Amendment when it comes to gun rights. But there has to be a change in how we deal with firearms. And not only that, we need to also have more conversations on mental health. Um, it's a it's a bad situation where, like, the young man in University of Virginia um, shoots up these people coming off of a bus after they've been traveling together, and he snaps. I understand that there might have been some bullying going on with him from the football team. I'm not exactly sure. Then you have the guy at Walmart in Virginia who shoots up at a Walmart
Yep.
at his coworkers. I
Hmm.
hear that they had been picking with him, um, not excusing his actions. He needs to. Well, he killed himself, but you know, these people need to be dealt with. But also, hey, good morning, James. How you doing? You want to join the show? Let me know, man. I'll send you the link. But he wants to. These different things. At the gay nightclub where the guy went in and shot people up. Another situation where his dad was a homophobe. His mom is a felon in multiple is a fugitive in multiple states. He has search warrants out. So he had a bad influence all around him, but the dad was definitely anti-gay. So his that influence onto his child could have triggered him to respond in a
Yep.
certain way. And
Yep.
then I understand he went by the identity of them and their, which is something that is known within the um, that started, I think, from the gay community. I'm not sure exactly, but that's where I first heard those terms, and that's how his son refers himself. So I'm not sure what went down at this club, but it was, from
Yeah.
what I understand, he had been there before or knew people there, and that club didn't wasn't. It was a gay nightclub, but it wasn't occupied by all gay people. There were heterosexual people who still frequent that same club. One of the guys that helped tackle the uh, the shooter, him and his, I think it was his wife and family, was at this club that night.
Hmm.
So it's crazy where we have to go through. We're going through this thing, and it doesn't even have to be um, a person that's disturbed. Some people are just unhappy people
Hmm.
and tend to harm others,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous right now.
How how much do you think the contributing factor is of the pandemic and the aftermath of that, of people just being more isolated, of people failing, society failing young people, particularly young men uh, of a certain age and inclinations?
I don't know. I
Do you
feel
put
that
any merit into that, or is there something to that?
I put influences around a lot of it.
Okay.
We have so much access to information that, and the thing about it, the access to information isn't always true.
Hmm.
So you can get caught up getting information that is completely false, and you can become, what's the word I want to say,
Radicalized.
radicalized
Hmm.
by false
So
information.
you think that political influences are also a factor, could be a factor?
Yes, especially lately. I mean, political shootings have always been, before it was just assassinations. That was something
Mhm.
that was part of our history, going back, with presidents getting shot and killed, that's all political. But now it gets to the point where we are now choosing sides, with everything is choosing a side. You have to
Mhm.
choose a side if you're Christian, if you're not. You have to choose a side if you're Muslim, if you're not. If you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, if you're anti-abortion or abortion, if you're anti-gay
Mm.
or you're gay. Why can't a person have a little bit of different ideologies? Why
Interesting.
does it have to be
Interesting.
one or the other? And I always, put myself in these situations because I agree with so many different things. There's things I don't agree with. There's things I want more questions about, more understanding on. And just because you don't choose a side, then it's like, oh, you're this. Everybody is labeling
Mm.
somebody. Why do we have to have so many labels? Why can't we
Interesting.
just be people, and we're just all navigating life together? We're all
Yeah, I
trying to
mean,
find out where we fit in. And
we didn't used to be like that. I can remember as a child, we didn't have these labels. It's like, oh, so and so's a Republican. oh, they're a Democrat. We didn't,
Mm.
that's just political labels. And then
Yeah,
there's all kinds of other labels as well.
yeah,
So in some cases, I think that there is a empowerment to labeling and to labeling yourself, I guess, and coming out as who you are. That is certainly valid, but there's
yeah,
also the effect of labeling others, I think, which it
yeah,
can be harmful. And
yeah,
we have all these sort of dividing lines of all these names
yeah,
that we divide each other by.
yeah,
So and so is this, they're not like me. They believe in this, they're not like me. And so
yeah,
you separate yourself from them and you don't associate with them because you can exist in bubbles anymore. You don't need your
yeah,
neighbors. You don't meet your
yeah,
neighbors. You don't meet the people anymore at the store. You can go and just
yeah,
pick up your groceries. That's
yeah,
just one example of how we are
yeah,
sort of all sort of existing in our little bubbles. And I'm as
mm,
guilty as anyone else out there of this.
yeah,
And maybe it's the way of things. It's the way of society has developed.
yeah,
Um, and there might be a going back to sort of um, meeting people in person and getting to know someone with differences. How often do we do that?
yeah,
Even I have to sit and think to myself, do I know somebody who is a conservative?
yeah.
And
I
do I
mean,
talk to do I know some people,
mm-hmm,
mostly they are family members, but
mm-hmm.
if um uh I don't know a lot of people that have a different point of view than me that I talk about these things with.
Well, I don't mind talking with people about things, and I'm starting now to be kind of reserved. Joe says we used to blame all the world's problems on video games and rap music.
Yeah, I mean,
Right,
when
exactly.
these things happened 15, 20 years ago, say, oh, it's because of the video games, it's the
Yeah.
violent lyrics in music, it's pop culture, whatever, you name
But
it.
when you
I
but
think
when
we're
you say
beyond
that,
that now. I mean, aren't we beyond this?
yeah, but with coming in
It's
with
got to
that
be
point,
more than that.
Joe brings this problem up with rap music and video games. The thing about that, we never blamed a movie like Scarface for violence.
Yeah,
Scarface came out in the heat of the drug trades. You know what I'm saying? Right in the heat
that's a
of
that's a violent
uh,
movie,
that was a
man.
violent movie, and it was
Heck
like
yeah, it's a violent movie.
he's a hero. He's
Reservoir
on
Dogs, when did that come out? 25 years
you.
ago, 30 years
You
ago?
go to any tourist location and go to a t-shirt shop, you're gonna have a picture of Al Capone from Scarface. Not Al Capone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What's his name? Who played Scarface? Dang it, I said Al Capone. I didn't mean to say that.
Al
Um,
Pacino.
Al
Al
Pacino.
Pacino.
You will
Yeah.
see a picture of Al Pacino on T-shirts in his
Hmm.
Scarface character. He's a
Yeah.
freaking hero, and so,
Yeah.
but we never looked. But then we look at a picture, a movie like New Jack City, and that's considered crime written and
Violent.
a violent movie.
Why is
That's
that? So tell me, why is that?
it's just that we glamorize certain things and certain people when they highlight certain. I mean, Terminator is one of the most violent movies I've ever seen, but he's a freaking hero. He turns out later to be a good guy, but in that first one, he was a bad guy. But that's what we remember him from. And so you look at all these different shoot 'em up, kill 'em. Sylvester Stallone. We understood his
Rambo.
role. Rambo was a freaking murderer. You know what I'm saying? So we look at these movies and we can make heroes out of these people, but yet we never looked at it as something that can evolve to where we're at now. So you say video games caused.
So you're saying there was an influence because of entertainment?
I think that it could or it couldn't be. What I'm saying is they pick and choose. Like you say, you use rap music as a sense of influence. Where at one point I was totally in disagreement with that. I said, no, music is not calling people to do these killings and all this stuff. But
Okay.
what happened is in my opinion, how it evolved is that you had artists that were doing positive things at the time, say like this, the Crips and the Bloods and the LA Gang Wars came out.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had good artists talking about positivity and
Hmm.
stopping gang violence
Yeah,
and
you did.
stopping the violence and all that stuff. They
Yeah.
were talking positive things about poor communities and how to pick them up. Well, those artists were basically I ain't gonna say told to shut up, but they allowed the negativity in music purposely to highlight the positive thing, to override the positive things. That to me was saying to me, well, and you can go by and look at any, just Google, the conspiracy theories of music, but the the industry allowed this to push and push and push to where people are influenced, I think, now by music. Um, your
Okay.
everything is driven, and you look at hip hop music, it's the biggest brand of music globally. And a lot of it is disturbing. It's very disturbing. I mean, your all these ideas that are going on that are happening out there, people are being influenced by music with it. And the
Hmm.
industry allows it to happen. And they allow these artists to make millions and millions of dollars off of this stuff. I mean, this
So do you,
past 2 years
you
was
don't
the
think?
most I've seen. This last 2 years was the most I've seen rappers murdered in the last 2 years. I'm like, what the heck is going on? What the heck is going on?
So the labels on music doesn't make any difference.
The labels are pushing this stuff, man, and they allowed it to happen, in my opinion. They're allowed it to happen. They allow the words, the disparaging words against one another to happen. Freedom of speech, yeah, but you know, you say certain things about certain people, and it's like no. But they allow all this negativity in music to go on and on and on, and it's really distasteful in so many ways.
Hmm.
Um, you know, from the way people dress in it. I mean, everything is just so negative. And I remember back in the day when Luke Skywalker and the Two Live Crew was being banned from performing around the country because of their lyrics in the song. It was mainly sexual content. You know, it went from talking about having sex and wild sex to
Wow.
music where people talking about killing one another.
Okay.
To people talking about different crimes that were associated, whether true or false, but they talk as if it was something committed. And I'm like, wow, who's going to step in and bring some type of positivity back to the music scene? When is that going to happen? When are people
Yeah.
going to, boss up and be like, you know what? I'm going to put out positive music. There is a lot of positive music out there, encouraging music, but you don't, it's not in the forefront. It's not on the charts. It's not stuff that's
Yeah.
being played on the radio.
Yeah.
So to me now, I feel that it is influential in its sense because it's being intentional to be influential. I don't think it was intentional before, but it is now. People just talked about their communities and where they grew up to bring awareness. I think now people are actually doing what's said in said song. you know,
So
so
you're saying that there is an influence of music upon the
definitely, in my
violence
opinion.
that we're
But it's
seeing.
but it's but it's put out by the labels and the record, the organ,
Because it's controlled
the
by
power,
corporations and
the
big
corporations. You got three
big
major
companies.
corporations that run music. You got Universal Music Group,
Warner
Warner
Brothers.
Brothers, and Sony.
Hmm.
Those three are the major.
Okay.
Everybody else fall up under them three.
Okay.
So that says a lot. Now look at who owns those stations, those companies. Why are they allowing this to happen?
For me, I always thought that video games might be more harmful because you're putting yourself in the place of those characters. So,
Yeah,
like first-person shooters and things like that, you are that guy. You are that
yeah,
person behind the guns, shooting zombies or whatever it is
yeah,
in warfare. Um, so whatever the game is. So I always thought that might have been more
yeah.
harmful
I agree.
than watching a movie. Although both can be influential. I'm not sure what to think about that because I watch a lot of action,
Yeah,
violent things on TV, and yet
same,
I don't have
same
an
way.
inclination to even pick up a gun.
Yeah,
So I think I can differentiate that in my mind as far as like this
yeah,
is entertainment, this is something I do for fun versus reality.
You don't see
So
a 50-year-old guy being influenced by video games like you would a younger person. A person who grew up in the video game era, who grew up with the
okay,
first shooter. Like my first game I played was Siphon Filter. I remember that back in the
what was it?
day. It's called Siphon Filter. And it was
Oh,
a
I
one of
don't
these
even know the game.
espionage. Yeah, that came out back in the early 2000s. I've had that game. You're shooting up all this stuff trying to find this cure to the
Okay,
serum for zombies. But as for those that were born into this generation where you see this and you get to play these games and they're so real, like Call of Duty and things of that nature. Call of
Call of
Duty's been
Duty,
out for
yeah.
so long. You've had
Mm-hmm,
people
mm-hmm.
born and that have grown up with Call of
Yes.
Duty. And
Mm-hmm. So
when you
James
look at it
agrees
from
with
that
you that
perspective,
the young person is much more at risk. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, they are at
Somebody
more
that
risk
grew
because
up with this
they
thing.
grew up in it. We grew
Okay.
up when we went from Pac-Man to first shooter. They grew up with first shooter and still at it and still there,
Okay.
So and not only that, how many people who work within the military that are like snipers who grew up on video games? How many people who are in video
Probably a
games
lot
that
of
are
them. I don't
now
know.
look at how many people that grew up playing video games are now drone drivers, that control the drones in the military.
Okay.
Think about that. They come from a young mind who's been influenced by this culture, you
Okay.
know. And I hate to say the video games is what's causing this because I love playing video games, but we have to change out. We have to do something. But I think more so than anything, the mass shootings are due to influence, being radicalized, and then slash mental health versus
Mm-hmm,
music and video
mm-hmm.
games. Oh, look at
So
Bree
I'm
Bree.
not
She
sure.
didn't
You
say
said
what
that.
to say.
So I want to go back to the mental health thing. You said that we need to have a conversation about mental health. And mental health is a complicated issue with a lot of different variables, and it,
Yeah,
it takes persistent work on our part and government's
yeah,
part and healthcare
yeah,
to make this a priority. And I'm
yeah,
not sure that the people have the citizens of this country have the patience for that. Because it's messy, and it it's not it's not black and white, and
yeah,
it's not something that you can just pour money into either.
yeah,
So I'm not sure how much of an issue that can be because the results are going to be inconclusive. I think
yeah,
what we should do is work on getting the amount of guns out of circulation,
yeah. How do you do
be
that?
with gun buybacks and things of that sort. We need to. There's just a prevalence of access that
Yeah,
people have.
yeah. But think about this. Look how many the mass shootings that we've had recently. How many people bought their gun within the same day or very recent
Yeah,
to the
I
shooting?
know.
So that's this is bigger than what it used to be like, where a person had a house full of guns and went on a rampage, or someone who you know planned a shooting and bought a gun a year or so in advance. These people are like the guy at the Walmart, the Virginia Walmart, bought the gun. I think that same day or the day before. It was like he had just bought that gun.
That's
You
crazy.
know,
It's
the
crazy.
guy,
Yeah,
the shooter,
and it still happens. We talk about this every single time, and then it happens
yeah,
again.
the shooter last year that shot up
It's
during the
terrible.
holiday parade. Was that this year? The holiday parade? What was that? 4th of July? What
Yeah, that
parade was
was
that?
in Detroit area,
No, it was
right?
Chicago area.
Chicago
It was
area. Okay.
Chicago area,
Yeah, I'm sorry,
and
Chicago.
yeah, he had his dad, signed him to get that gun recently.
Yep.
So those guns are bought legally. There's nothing you can do about it. That's the scary part now. They're not stealing the guns. That was one of the things before with crime is that, you're stealing guns. Well, that does happen, but these people now are buying their own
Now you
gun
just get
legally,
them wherever.
you know. So I don't know what to do, man. Like I say,
It's sad and depressing, and it's just uh it just wears on you
if
mentally.
you
It wears
if you
on me mentally.
if you take them out of circulation, then you have the illegal gun game. the legal gun trade will reach a massive high. The illegal gun
think.
trade would be, oh yes, why wouldn't it?
Okay.
Why
Well, it
wouldn't
makes
it?
sense. It makes
It
sense. I
would
don't
be, I
know.
mean,
It's just
everybody's
stupid. I
gonna
mean, what
think
are
about it.
people like
People,
that? Are people that hell bent to get their hands on guns? Then?
well, it's gonna. I'm talking about from a home defense perspective. People who have been threatened, people who have been or have their lives in harm's way, will seek out an illegal gun to protect themselves. That
Yeah.
I believe. That I believe. I mean, right? Like I said, we just named 3 people. We just had 2 situations where a person possibly was being bullied: the Walmart shooter and the Virginia University shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them, I've heard something
Bulliness.
about some
Yep.
type of
Bullying.
bully or hazing
Mm-hmm.
type incidents. So those 2 people would have found other means. And thing about it is that if you didn't do it with a gun, you would do it with something else, knife.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be as deadly of an incident.
True, but the rage for violence is still there.
It is.
We're talking about the capacity of how many people are killed. Why are people killing is the problem. It's not how many you kill. It's why are you killing?
It is how many people you kill because
No,
that could be
no, hear me out.
your child, that could be your
No, right.
grandchild in Walmart that got killed.
No, hear me out.
Then it would make a
Well,
difference,
I've said it before in the
right?
past. My son was in a school shooting. And it wasn't the matter of, I mean, it came down to how many people this person killed or shot ever. No one died, but he shot 6 people, I think it was. But the issue is, look at his life and what happened to put him in a position or influenced his decisions to do this. That's the problem. We're focused on the access to guns, and we're not
That
focused on
we're
what's
okay.
causing the
The reason
problem.
why we're focused on the access of guns is because that's what we could do something about. It's harder for us as a people, for government, to do something about mental health. That has to be done on a more local level. That has to be done on an individual level. That has to be done at the social service level. If you
Right.
want to make a difference right now about mass shootings, then it's going to take something like taking guns out of people's hands.
No,
Period.
no, I get that.
That's why
But we
that's
cannot.
why that is an issue. As opposed, that's why mental health. You're like, well, where do we begin with that, and what can government
Sometimes
actually do about it?
what no,
That's my point.
I'm totally with you on access to guns. But what I'm saying is that we're also not addressing whether it's mental health or not. We're not addressing if you, like I said, if you take guns away, you're going to find another way to commit your crime because of what's going on in our country. People are being just jacked up in the head, man. They're just jacked up in the head.
But here's the
Whether
thing. I mean,
whether it's mental health or whether it's
are we more jacked up
radicalization,
than any other
whatever.
country out there? Are we
They
more
are.
jacked up than Japan or England, or you give me a country, any country?
What country has
Are
like
we? Do
nice?
we have more mentally ill people? Do we have more violent people here? That much more
I think we
than
do
any
because the
other
way we.
country out
I think we do because the way we promote violence.
there? Wow. So we are
We
just a
promote.
violent culture then.
I
We're just
agree.
that
I
much
think we
more
are.
of a violent culture.
I think we are. I
That's
think
sad.
you can go in another country and you can step on somebody's shoe on accident and it's like, oh, my bad. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. You can step on somebody's shoe in America and, and dead, end up
Here's the
dead.
thing. Don't they also play violent video games in Japan? That's where these things are made. Don't they also watch violent TV in
Are they?
Canada?
Are as the
They have the same.
influence?
Do they just don't they watch the same movies and TV shows in
Are
Canada?
the
They
are
do.
the violence promoted in our country like it is? I mean, how when you go online, I don't know how things are filtered on TV and things of that nature in other countries. I mean, like when I was in Mexico, I was watching the different TV shows and I saw them there. Like they had like I forgot what movie it was. We was watching some movie, it was kind of violent. But I look at how we promote things like that here. We promote it through the different bickering and the arguments and the fighting amongst just people, and we love to post that stuff on YouTube and Twitter and TikTok. We
I think
promote
there's something to
violence
that.
regularly.
I think there's
We're the
something to
only
that. Yeah.
we're the only country that will create a TV show and or a podcast, something showing people purposely fighting. You know, we sit here and do MMA in backyards. You know what I'm saying? Fight till you can't even walk. You know, and we
But
promote violence.
MMA is big in
Come on.
places like Brazil.
No. What I'm saying is that we start doing just the
Uh-oh,
where the
Bree's on.
backyard where the
Bree's on.
backyard where the
Bree's got
backyard
something to
brawls come
say.
from. Where did backyard brawls come from? You know, when they had the videotape that started in
You
America,
mean that
didn't it?
you mean that nobody like started a street fight in Ireland or Africa or India?
And
I
posted?
just don't believe it.
Then they create a TV show out of it. I mean, come on. What you got, Bria?
I would say that I think the United States of America, right, is a violent country. Like the
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
well, you
Keep
look
going.
at
No,
how
keep going.
America started. You look
I'm
at
not
how
saying I disagree with you. I'm just
I think it's not so much that we intend to be this way, but I think when you look at how the country was born, when you look at how throughout history have we ever had a truly peaceful decade, you know, it's always violence against someone. I mean, I can't think of a time when America wasn't violent, but we also have all these other pretty little sparkly things around us to keep us from seeing that. You know, we've got our money, we've got our shiny cars, we've got, all, riches and capitalism, and a lot of that, it keeps us from looking at the bigger picture, whereas, America is actually pretty violent. It always has been. There hasn't been a time in our history where we weren't. Ever. So I just wanna put
okay.
that there. And I think guns has a big part of that because, again, this country was created out of the conception of America of independence of I would say independence of the colonies that became America, start out of war, with guns, with violence, and then, that was sewed into our Constitution because, well, why not keep guns in there? We came over here with guns, everybody should have a right to have a gun, and then here we are today. So it's kind of almost like in order to stop these kinds of things from happening, you kind of need to just, like, dismantle the whole system entirely because how can you have America without having guns? I think it's terrible, to be honest, because, these mass shootings aren't going to stop. We're becoming so desensitized to it. Um, I don't know.
That's what grieves me is that we're becoming desensitized to it. Like next week, a week from now, it'll be like, oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah, we're desensitized to everything.
Mhm.
Let's show you the way the world is going.
Club Q shooting. Okay, that happened,
The amount
and we'll
of
go on with
violence
our lives.
the amount of violence
I
that
hate
we've
crime.
experienced just in, like, the last 60 days is, like it's insane. So I don't know. I don't think it's gonna stop anytime soon, but I also don't know how we would stop it if, like how does the American people stop mass shootings from happening? I think it's bigger than guns. I think it's bigger than mental health. I think it's becoming a culture thing,
Yeah.
That's sad.
unfortunately.
That's sad. Well,
Yeah.
from one big topic to another, we had this interesting discussion before we got online. I wanted to come to this. I know that this is a big thing, but Kyrie Irving was, just shared something on Twitter and got in hot water for that. Are we becoming too sensitive to anything that might be construed as anti-Semitic?
I feel like people have a really hard time talking about this on podcasts because no one wants to get canceled.
Yeah, we might be canceled right now, right? Might be
I've
lifted
watched
off
I've
the
watched a couple.
platform.
I don't
watched a
think
couple
people
podcasts. Oh, go ahead, Bree.
Oh, good.
No, I'm saying I watched
I'm
a
just posing the
podcast.
question. It's like,
Yeah,
because that's all he. Now, I'm not a huge Kyrie Irving person at all,
me either. Me
but
either.
looking at what he did, I'm like, well, what did he say? I'm like, what exactly did he say? Because that I wasn't up on the story. Lamar said, no, he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. He just shared a story. So, are we becoming
It
just
wasn't
sort of
even a
like
story. It was just a link to the movie,
a link?
a link to Amazon to buy the movie on Amazon.
Hmm.
And I guess the thing that we were talking about earlier, which I think is the bigger story, is that and that's like if me and you are having a conversation about a certain business, or it could be having a conversation about anything, and in that conversation, I use a racial slur in that conversation, or I use something that you would consider inappropriate and totally out of bounds in that conversation.
Sorry.
But the meat of the conversation is something else. Do you discredit everything I say because of that comment that I made? Or do we say, okay, you correct me on my error, and we still continue to have this conversation?
Well, you said a slur,
That's
so was it an error? Was it an unintentional slur? Like,
no. I just gave him an example
oh,
because
no, I'm just
somebody told me that the writer of that movie, I saw the movie, and there was some statements in there that was considered anti-Semitic. And this is this person's thoughts when he put this in there. He's like, he even had a quote from Hitler. And the quote from Hitler, people say, oh, he quoted Hitler. People don't even know what he said about Hitler. And so that was the thing that I read what the quote was. And he didn't say the quote. It was a listing of 6 things that they mentioned about the Jewish community. And one of them said that um, it was something saying that black people will be a stronger, basically, it's a paraphrasing, they will be a stronger group of people when they find out who they are. And we've heard that comment for so many years. We kept saying the black community need to stick together. That was a quote from Hitler, in paraphrasing, of saying some things of that nature, of knowing who they are. And it was just related toward the Jews, because basically saying that a lot of culture was stolen from. So that was a quote that Hitler did back then. And I can't. I gotta find the listing. And I actually screenshotted, I think, with these.
While you're looking for that, I have a
But
question.
I'm not gonna look for it. I'm gonna just post it later. But the whole point I'm making is that let's have the bigger conversation. So every time we talk about Kyrie Irving, we talk about what was possibly anti-Semitic, or the Hebrew Israelites are anti-Semitic, but we're not talking about what was the movie about. The movie was not an anti-Semitic film talking about Jews, about criticizing European Jews. Let's talk about the meat of the movie, and let's have that discussion, because that discussion is what's being had behind closed doors, private conversations, but we're not bringing it to the forefront. And so what David Chappelle did, what was that?
What is the meat of the? I don't know what movie you're talking about.
The meat of the conversation is
I didn't read that.
the people from the African diaspora. Those are the people that was in the slave trade that went throughout the world. They got dispersed throughout the world, the Caribbean, South America, United States. Those are descendants from Africa. This filmmaker is saying that black people from those countries are descendants from the original Hebrews that was the son of Shem. That's what he's saying. So that's what he's saying. Now, I don't know if it was true or not, but for me, as a black African American, a black man from the United States, I said, wow, this is interesting. Let me watch this. Because Kyrie brought it up, and that was the topic. So let me watch this. There were some things, in my opinion, I'm like, well, I don't know about that. But then it made me start to question some stuff from a historical and scientific standpoint. It made sense. Now, instead of worried about what someone said that might have been offensive, let's dig down and say, wow, let's dig this out and pull back the layers, because there's no one you've seen in the media wants to talk about the context of the movie. It's always
Yeah,
it was
exactly. It's just
anti-Semitic.
we can't. It's
That's
almost
what
as if we
bothers me.
can't have a conversation about this. We can't have a conversation about this movie and what the movie's really about. We can't have a conversation about history. We can't have a conversation about anything that might be construed as
Yeah,
anti-Semitic. It's almost like
yeah,
um, in this regard, it's like, well, don't you want to learn history? Don't you want to learn about its ugliness as well? So
right,
just like we want to learn about slavery and the
yeah,
evils of slavery, don't we also want to talk about this? And it's almost
yeah.
like we can't.
We can't talk about
Um,
it.
you can't
That's the
talk about it.
part that's
You
that's
can't
what's
even broach
frustrating.
the subject of it and
Yeah,
find out
So
what this really is all about.
yeah.
What is this
I've
really all
heard
about?
of it. I've heard a lot about the is it the Black Hebrew Israelites? Is that what
Yes.
it is?
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
so I
Well, a
guess
lot
my
of
question. Hmm.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
So I guess my question is like when I trace back to okay, when did for me, when did I notice this started happening where black men would get on, their radio or they get on Twitter, like their podcast or get on Twitter or, voice their opinion about this. And I think it was back when like last year with Nick Cannon is when I first noticed it.
Okay, this has been going on
And
for
Nick
years.
Yeah, I honestly just started paying attention like last year when Nick Cannon was talking about something similar,
Mhm.
and his show almost got canceled
Yeah, VH1.
because they said it was, and I saw the interview and I wasn't sure. He said something about the Caucasus Mountains, and then he said something about, and I was just like, what did he say wrong? Like still wasn't very sure about what he said that was bad. I just know after the
Yeah.
interview, his
Yeah.
show was canceled and everything. So I went back and watched it again, and I still was just so confused. Like, and I know what anti-Semitism means. So I'm just like, I don't see him saying anything bad about Jewish people. So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like
then
you can't even get to the bottom of like what was said.
it was more like an opinion that he made, but it
Yeah.
wasn't anything bad. And then I stopped really paying attention to that. He apologized, he got his show back and everything. Everything's good.
Mm.
And then they started having a bunch of kids. So now that's where he is. And then Kanye is here. Kanye. Now, my beef with Kanye was just I felt like he deserved to get canceled because
Yeah.
he can't badmouth the people
Well,
who
so
he
did
do
I.
business with. So I still don't know what he said that was anti-Semitic.
Well, DEFCON 3 on the Jews, that's pretty
Oh,
bad.
that tweet.
That
Okay,
was like
that.
stupidity in my opinion.
So
That was
then
complete stupidity.
so then we'll take Kanye out of this, but I think what happened with Kanye caused some, like, residual side effects for Kyrie.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think that now everyone's on the lookout for, like, is anyone gonna else say anything bad about Jews? And I think Kyrie became, like, a target because Kyrie is known for having some pretty out there ideas about things,
Mhm.
and he
Yeah.
sages, and he's a flat earther, and blah, 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 and I think that he became an easy target because the tweet, I don't even remember what the tweet was, like, I honestly don't. All I do remember about the situation was the list of 6 things that he had to do in order to play, and this is all in the midst of, all of this other corrupt stuff going on, and then you got, all these more like Elon Musk literally retweeting something about the death of Black Twitter, like, you know what I'm saying? Like all
Yeah.
of these things going
Yeah.
on, and
Black Twitter made Twitter famous.
yeah,
Yeah.
black people have pretty much made every single social media network pop, like go boom.
Hmm.
But well,
Yeah.
that's another conversation for another
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I think this whole Kyrie thing is blown out of proportion. I don't think there's anything wrong with Black people exploring where their roots are from. And the truth of it all is if white people didn't steal us, colonizers didn't steal us from our home, and, maybe you and I wouldn't be here today, but,
Mhm.
our people
Mhm.
would at least have the answers that they need, and this wouldn't even be a thing if they were really, the true Israelites or the true Hebrews, or true Jew
Yeah. Same thing.
honestly don't even yeah, if we were those people, then that would be already known. I know it sounds like I'm really ignorant to this. I honestly don't. I've looked into it a little bit, and I don't agree, but, I think it's pretty out there. I think the most important thing for Black people to do right now is to look into your history and find out where you're from, and
Yeah.
then go down this road. But at least find out where we're from first
Well, that's hard to even do.
instead of guessing.
A lot of that is
It
even
is,
hard to do.
but
A lot of it's hard to do, and that's what make this so interesting with a lot of but black people here from the United States is that we've been asking this question since we've been here. You know that like how do you research your history? But then
Yeah.
the argument that I've had with not gonna say but the debates I've had, especially with like with John Stahl, I could say his name because he's been on our show before, is that he keeps wanting me
Hello,
to
John.
he just wants me to always admit that was Kyrie right or do I stand by Kyrie? And it's not about standing by anybody. All I'm saying is that let's have the bigger conversation.
what
Um,
does he think he did wrong? No,
he's
that's what no one's
because the
saying
book
here.
because the book is basically denying that 6 million people died at a Holocaust. He said it was like a fake. I'm not sure if he's saying that. See, he left. It's a lot of context missing. Is he saying it wasn't 6 million, or is he saying that those weren't the original Jews that got killed? Those are original Hebrews. That's just a lot of it's a lot of out of context stuff there. So he's not saying anything because these people died in Europe. They didn't die, you know what I'm saying? And then think about Israel came into a country again after World War II. So it's like
Yeah.
what the question always keeps coming around to who were these people? If you go back to biblical times, what did the people in the region look like? You know, all that comes into that conversation. And so it's that's what I'm saying. To say somebody's anti-Semitic for like Kyrie just putting out the tweet, and he tells you in his interview, when they interviewed Kyrie, he said, I was trying to learn more about where I come from, my heritage. He says that. So why wasn't the next question? So what did you find out about your heritage?
Right.
Why are you still trying to make him say I promote a film? He didn't make the film, and not any of these people ever interviewed the writer of the film. I keep putting that quote. I'm sure y'all seen me put this text out saying, "Why haven't anybody interviewed the author, the filmmaker? His name is Ronald Dalton. Why has nobody spoke to him?" Now,
Yeah.
those type of things. If when what's the guy's name? What's the guy's name that had to pay all these millions of dollars for the Sandy Hook victims?
I'm going.
What's his name? The guy
Alex
that
Jones.
Alex Jones. When Alex Jones says something false, everybody has a post about Alex Jones, and everybody dissects and debunks what Alex Jones has said. They have not debunked this movie yet.
So my question is, the research. Who did the research? Who's the
the filmmaker? And he had worked with scientists. They did everything from archaeology, DNA testing, language testing, culture, everything. It's like a ton of things. And I posted it a couple times.
About this is not that I don't like about it.
And I'm not saying I believe it either. I'm not saying I believe everything in the movie. I just want to learn more about what's being said. That's all.
Well, the thing that I have with this is, and it's not necessarily a problem or issue, it's just more so like an observation. It seems like for some reason, groups of oppressed people, Black, Asian, Jews,
Hispanic.
We are always trying to like, my oppression is worse than your oppression, or, or no, we're the Jewish people, not you. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case, but I do understand, like, you don't have to discredit other Jewish people to prove that your people came from that, came
Right.
from the original
exactly.
Jewish bloodline or the original Hebrew in the Bible.
Right.
Like, and I totally get that. Like, I've heard the theory. Like, I totally get it. No, I don't get it. I mean, like, I understand the need to know more. I get the urge to research it and to see if it's true. But in that, I don't think that you need to discredit an entire group of people, because you gotta understand too, this is their identity. This is who they are. That is just how it is. This is what they were born into. This is what they grew this is in their blood.
Yeah.
You know, like, and when I look at other religions around the world, I think American Christians are the most, I feel like we're the only religion. There are children knocking. No, no, no. No, ma'am. I'm sorry, my daughter. American Christians are the only religion that does not, go ahead, honey. You're welcome. That doesn't actively show I don't express their religion, express their faith like other religions. You got Muslims, they have you see their mosques, especially overflowed on like the holidays. They pray 3 times a day. And you've got Jewish people who really come together for the holidays that are honored in what did they read the like Maccabees or something like that? I'm honestly not really sure. So, but then you look at, you know, this is their culture. Like they grew up in this. They're doing Hanukkah. They're doing, I don't want to miss, quote anything, but they're doing Hanukkah. They're doing the Sabbath. They're, things like that. And so now you've got, and I'm not defending them. I'm just saying now you've got you got a group of people now trying to take that away from them, trying to say that that's not,
Well, you don't have to take it away from them. That's their faith.
Well,
You
I've
don't
talked to
that,
people that
you're not
believe this,
taking
and they're
away.
saying those aren't the real Jews. We're the real Jews.
But
Those
they're
aren't
not taking away their faith, though. I don't think it's taking away nothing from them.
That just seems so.
That's like me telling you, like, you're not
that
really
seems
black.
petty. It's petty.
These are the really black people. These are real black people. You're not black.
Yeah,
Well, I
who
think
has
that
who has
conversation.
had it worse conversation, Joe?
I don't think. I
This is
think it
exactly
comes
what we're talking
out.
about.
I think it comes. I think it comes to a place of because not knowing where you're from. I think that's where it all stems from. I think that's where it all stems from.
Yeah, I truly think that we need to. So I just got an Ancestry membership. The thing that upsets me the most is that Black people in America, especially with how it would be different if Black people in America had been treated equally after we were free from slavery and had the same opportunity to have the same resources as everyone else, all the other white people in the country, right? But we don't. So a lot of Black people cannot afford to get an Ancestry DNA test to find out their heritage. It's like $100. That $100 we can't just spare $100 to go and swipe our inside of our mouth and send it over to see who I'm related to, see where I'm from. I think that it should be free for Black people in this country, considering, you're making money off of us anyway. We want to know where we're from, and I feel like you are putting a target on our back, like, oh, you want to know where you're from? Yeah, you're gonna have to pay $100, or you're gonna have to pay $15 a month to even build a family tree, and you're gonna pay $100 for you to get your DNA tested,
and your identity was stolen from you.
Yeah, I think it's a big problem because you are coming into a country where that heritage is a soft spot for Black people. That it's a point of, we really don't know where we're from. This is something that we kind of don't have a choice but to do if we want to know where we're from.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's, crazy that only some Black people will have the opportunity to. Some of us will have the opportunity to, find out where we're truly from, and a lot of us, like a big majority of us, will not.
Yes.
We still won't know.
And you look at
capitalism.
I think the thing that I think me and Darren were talking about earlier, I think with Black Americans, when it comes down to the Jewish people and their oppression, is that Jewish people were able to come over here and gain. At first, when they came here, there was this discrimination against them. But like I told him, I worked for an employer whose grandfather changed his name just so he can get the loan to start his business. Where this was in the 30s or the 40s, we couldn't do that.
We couldn't change our name.
Right. So you look at that and you see that throughout our country's history, that the progress that the Jewish communities have been able to make, not only from knowing who they are and where they're from and their identity, but being able, because of the color of skin, to blend in and to have advantages that others couldn't. And then you're going to compare your oppression. So when you look at the history of the Holocaust, it's taken as a you put on a pedestal type thing. And we've been complaining about slavery and racism, not comparing, but we're saying in the sense of get over it and move on.
Which
And
is crazy.
so, I mean, we just
immigrants with a certain color of skin have been able to rise quickly.
yeah.
I
And
would say,
so
yeah,
that
we
makes a
change our
difference.
name. We could change our name to anything, and we still wouldn't get the love
Unfortunately.
because we're
Yeah. Well, you know, they just turned away a bunch of babies. It was a boat of Haitians. Do you hear about the boat they turned away off the coast of Florida?
No.
Yeah, it was like 46 or 50 something adults and 40 something babies. And they took them all back to Haiti. They were leaving because of the situation there. And there's a breakout of cholera. What is is it cholera a disease, like a infection or
That was a
disease?
disease, yeah.
So it's a breakout over there. And you got to look at Haiti is one of those countries that not only the United States, but other countries put in their financial situation. France mainly. You know, was it France or Great Britain?
France.
I'm seeing something from
yeah, oh, it was France.
2021 about Haitians turned away.
This was just
Biden is turning back Haitian migrants coming by boat.
that was
This
last
is
year.
from
This is
this
a
is
new
from
one.
last year.
There's a new one that just happened this week. It was like
Oh,
2
I
days
didn't-
ago. They were in a boat. The boat was like an old raggedy boat, was on the water. There was like over 100 something people on this boat, and the Coast Guard got a hold of them, the Border Patrol,
Here's
and
something
then
from
some of the people ran.
April 2020, July of 2022.
Yeah, but they had
Huh.
babies on the boat. That's
Boat
the
was
thing they're
totally
saying.
capsized. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'll have to follow that story and follow up on it.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we hope that you had a good Thanksgiving holiday, and it's now okay to play the Christmas songs on your radio and on your car radio. Turn your Spotify channels over. So, did you guys watch the parade at all? The New York parade?
Nah,
Macy's.
I
So
didn't watch
this year we had Mariah Carey introducing Santa
I love
Claus,
Mariah though. Like lip sync, that girl.
she still looks good.
She looks amazing.
Fantastic.
yeah.
Um,
She was up there,
I
like,
missed it. I missed the parade.
she was lip syncing all the way.
well, everyone
don't
lip
blame
syncs
her.
to the parade though. No, well, everyone lip syncs to parade. They kind of sing along, but they're lip syncing. They have the
Yeah.
recording of the song. Everyone was doing that. Gloria Estefan, everybody. So
Yeah.
I don't blame her for
Like,
that. But
though.
it's like
I don't blame her either.
Did you see
even
the girl get
Broadway
booed?
shows, they were lip syncing that.
You
What's
see
that?
the lady that got booed? Bebe, is it BB Rexa? BB Rexa, the singer?
I didn't see that.
I didn't see her.
Oh, no,
get
she was on the.
I
She
didn't
was
see
on the.
that.
She was on the
I watched
to the
the whole show. I
halftime.
didn't see it.
No, not the Thanksgiving parade. She was the halftime singer for the Lions and the Bills game, and
Oh no, I didn't see the football.
And they booed her.
Why?
They booed her, and then I went on Twitter because I didn't know her name, and I remembered one of her hit songs now because I accidentally played it at work, and it had profanity in it, and I didn't know it, but I had to just apologize for that one. But it was so funny that so I looked on Twitter to see what was all the booing for, like what did she involved in? So people were basically complaining because she's on the thicker side, you know, for a woman. And it was like they were telling her, it was a lot of backlash about her size. You know, like one comment was like, I thought it was so cruel. Like, how many animals did you kill to get into them leather pants? You know, and one was saying, you know, work harder. Yeah, work harder going up those stairs next time. And then you have people defend her and saying, no, she looks good at her size. She's fine. No, she looks good. But to hear somebody booed at the halftime show, they literally booed her. I mean, she starts singing. She was singing a cover song. I forgot whose song it was. I don't think it was hers. What's the name of that song? I forgot the name of it, but you'll know the song. But anyway, they was booing, and I was like, "What the heck?" Like that, she's singing, she's entertaining y'all. Why are y'all booing her?
That's
But
wild.
yeah, I'm like,
oh, the halftime show. Okay, it was a halftime show.
Yeah, she was. It was ridiculous, man. I was really kind of shocked. They as soon as she started singing this cover song, they booed her, and then I guess when her hits,
she is not. I mean, she looks good. I don't know what people are.
I'm
Yeah,
like, trying to
I'm
find
looking
it.
I'm looking at the picture of the show.
with the leather suit on, right?
Yeah, she is not.
They were just saying that she's too, she's
She's
not that
not.
she's not that skinny
No.
European model look.
You wouldn't
That
think
people
that's where was she? Where was this?
Detroit.
This doesn't make any sense because everyone's thick like this in the music industry.
They were look on Twitter. Look on her Twitter page. She shows a clip of her walk, looking at the field and where she's going to sing from. She's about to do a pre-sound check, and then all these
Wow,
comments
that's
rolled
just too
out.
bad.
All these Twitter
Oh,
That's
comments.
too bad.
Yeah, they posted it right to her post too that she posted, and they would, they were like criticizing her on her page, on her tweet, on that Twitter thread. And I was like, I just thought that was
That's
bad. She
ridiculous.
just
That is
this is
bad.
probably like one of her biggest shows of her life. You know what I'm saying? To
Yep.
be
That's too
at this,
bad.
halftime Thanksgiving show, and then you bash somebody. Yeah, the Lions lost, but they should have won that, Joe. They should have won that game, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you guys failed, but you should have won that game, man.
So
But yeah, man.
Oh, that's not okay. Mm.
Yeah. So anyway,
I think my bottom line for today is just going to be to get to the bottom of the stories and not be afraid to talk about things.
yeah,
Agreed.
Not to be
Yeah.
afraid to talk about things. Not to be afraid to read things. Not to
Yeah.
just shut it all down. If you don't understand it, if you don't understand it, go and read more about it, and find out what the point is.
Yeah.
And find out why they said what they said, and if it
Yeah.
has any validity, if it's
Yeah.
valid,
Yeah.
then you can make an opinion then. So
Yeah.
Mm.
What's yours, Bree? What's your bottom line for today?
My bottom line, is just stay safe out here for the holidays, you guys. Keep your head on a swivel when you're at Target, Walmart. It's you just never know. Honestly, I go into Target, I go into the grocery store, I have so much anxiety.
really,
Yeah, it's really bad. I don't take my kids to the store with me. We went shopping out yesterday, and I let George go into the outlets, and I kept the kids in the car
wow,
while we drove around.
wow,
Because Black Friday, somebody could just know that this is somewhere where a lot of people are going to be, and let's just go crazy. I would just it does cause a lot of anxiety. I would say just stay safe out there. It's the holiday season. A lot of crazy things happen during the holiday season. So,
okay,
but also, I just wanted to say this is unrelated, but I do want to keep up on this Shanquella. What's her name? Shanquella
Robinson.
Okay. I want to keep up on that case because the warrants are finally coming down. And I think there's like one warrant out now. I haven't done research in about 2 days, but I really want to keep an eye on this story because it's a really big deal. Like this is actually much bigger than a lot of people realize. The way that she was murdered this is a really big deal and a lesson to be learned from women traveling out of town with people they think they can trust.
I agree. I agree with that. I've been checking it out, and those people, her friends, that her so-called friends, thought they can get back to the United States and didn't think they would get caught. They're trying to bring them back and charge them in Mexico now, which is not a good thing.
They're gonna have a terrible time up in Mexican prison. Lord Jesus.
Yeah. So that's
wow.
I'm very interested in the outcome of this. But I'm glad that more information is coming out. But my bottom line for the day, I'm piggybacking off what Darren said about having conversations. This is why we started this show, to have conversations. Yes. I think that regardless of the topic, if we aren't willing to get over after you feel that someone's said something offensive, and that hurts because especially us in the Black community, we've been offended in so many ways with words, and just seeing things that we are still, even with that being said, we're still willing to have a conversation with you because we want to understand you as much as you say you want to understand me. But these conversations are important And the more and more we cover them up and run away from the conversation, the worse it gets for the next generation.
Okay.
And we're seeing it right now with the history books in the United States. It started off with just states like Florida and Texas and Alabama. It's like 40 something states looking to ban history books, not just history books, but every other kind of book, you may want to get. But for me personally, the history books is the ones that bother me because I'm always trying to find out our history. And in regards to
Mm-hmm.
the Hebrews and Negroes book and film, what made me just the fully transparency of why that caught my attention. And Bria may remember this. 2 weeks before the Kyrie backlash happened,
Okay.
I came across another book called Unspoken. It talks about the the African the African contribution to Christianity that we don't talk about, that we don't hear about, that we don't know. And goes all the way
Yeah.
back. It goes all the way back um, the pre writings of the Gospels. It goes back to after the Gospels. It talks about the Ethiopian church. I didn't know that Ethiopia is the only country in Africa that has not been colonized. It's the only country that you can't, if you're white, you can't have your baby in Ethiopia. You got to have it outside of the country because that keeps Ethiopia where it is because they fear of what they've seen from African countries. So when I read about this, I was like, wow. But anyway, the documentary is called Unspoken, and it talks about how you've heard people use the term Christianity is a white man's religion. You both have heard that before, right?
Yes.
I always
Okay,
bring up Ethiopia when that is in a conversation.
right. So I found
Well,
out a little bit. Go ahead.
it has that point of view, I think, because of the colonialization.
Yeah,
Because
that's
when the coloners came over, they were white people, and they brought not only their diseases, but they brought Christianity. So that's why it's
see,
considered like the white man's religion because
Mm.
of colonization. But go ahead.
and that's the narrative. That's the narrative. So that that terminology came from Northwest Africa because there was a king there who was split between Christianity and Muslim. After Christianity, it kind of died out in Northwest Africa. They, the king there, I can't think of his name right now, but it's in this documentary. He couldn't. He was being influenced by Islam and being influenced by Christianity, and he sent some Europeans came over and talked to him about Christianity, and instead of staying there to learn, he sent group of people to Europe to learn about Christianity. Well, when they came back to Africa, they came back with European culture. They
Hmm.
came back dressed like the Pilgrims. They came back with a different their language. Their names were changed from their African names to names like Peter and John and Paul. They changed their names. They changed to a whole European culture when they came back to North Africa. That's when the conversation. This was back centuries ago, hundreds and thousands of years ago, when
Hmm.
this stuff talking about white man's culture. That's where that narrative came from. Then when you look at colonization, there were Africans that came over here as slaves who were already Christians in certain parts of their country. If you were a Christian, you couldn't, you were considered a free person in America. So in the Constitution, there was it started off in Barbados where it says in there, then it came to our country. If you had to be a white male to own land and be free. They put color in there in the writings after the knowledge of the fact that some of these Africans were already Christians and they were being killed because they were reading or they were speaking the Bible. They were talking about the Bible. They wanted to be, and if they wanted to be taught from the slave owners wanted to teach them Christianity from their perspective. So if you think about the Bible, it talks a lot about liberation of God's people.
Okay.
That's like the strongest part. That's one of the strongest things, especially in the Old Testament. That's one of the strongest things that kept people moving forward with that liberation. So for slaves, what's the best part of reading about Exodus about being liberated? That was a conversation that was skipped over when there were studies of the Bible during slavery time.
Yes.
And some of
yes,
these Africans
yes.
knew
Of course
this.
it was.
The Africans knew this story. They knew some of it, not all of them, but there were people who did know, especially in
Mhm.
South Carolina. So anyway, when I read about that, and then this link came out about this movie, it made me want to say, wow, they were talking about Christians. Now we're learning about some of the original Hebrews. Let me look at this history. And that's what caught my attention because I don't know where I'm from. And I want to learn much as I can about Black culture in regards to the Bible because I love the Bible. So anyway, my bottom line, getting back to these conversations, you want to be able to have conversations and have respectful conversations and not afraid of peeling back the layers so you can know more. Sorry to go through that long withdrawn
No, it's okay.
put out there, but that's where, and people don't understand why I was so passionate about getting information and not worry about the rhetoric and talking points that was so on the surface. I still want to go deeper into the layers. So, and with that, man, I guess we're done.
Oh.
All right. Go Bucks.
Go Buckeyes.
Go Bucks.
I'll see you guys next week. All right.